Hi, I'm Brittany, a neurodivergent mum and speech pathologist. This is Not Just Theories, where I share what actually works in my real, messy life. Because life doesn't follow a theory. Here's what I actually do. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Not Just Theories. Today we are diving into one of those small, practical things that can make a huge difference to the way your child plays: toy rotation. I am going to start with a confession. I am not someone who has a Pinterest perfect playroom or even a neatly labelled storage system. We actually don't even have a toy room. Our toys live in the same space we do, our living room. We have one of those 6-cube storage shelves tucked against the wall, and that's it. That is where the magic and the chaos happens. So if you've ever felt like toy rotation sounds amazing in theory, but impossible in your real home, this episode is for you. Because even though I don't have it all figured out, when I do manage to rotate the toys, the change in my kids' play is instant and kind of incredible. They suddenly notice toys that were boring last month, and they play for longer, deeper, and a lot more independently. And honestly, this whole space just feels a lot calmer. So let's talk about why toy rotation works. When children have too many toys visible at once, it can actually be overwhelming, not just visually, but cognitively. Their brains are busy trying to process all the options, and that can scatter their attention. It's a bit like walking into a buffet, with 100 dishes. You might take a little bit of everything and put a whole heap on your plate, but you don't necessarily really savor anything, and you end up full but not satisfied. I know, if anything like me, I go to a buffet and then I sit at the table and I'm like, I wish I'd just gotten more of this one thing that I'm really enjoying instead of a little bit of everything. But it feels wasteful, so I end up just not having filled up on the thing I really wanted to do. So when you think about limiting the number of toys, you're not depriving your child. You're actually freeing up their focus. It's about giving them space to explore and create and stay with an idea for longer. It also helps capitalize on that novelty effect. If toys disappear for a little while and then come back, they feel exciting again. It's like a reset button for both the child and the toy. You don't need to buy more things to get that novelty factor. You can reintroduce what you already have in a thoughtful way. So here's what this actually plays out in our home. So remember, no toy room here. Tiny apartment. Our 6-cube shelf sits in the corner of the living room, it's open plan, so it's in between the living room and the kitchen, I suppose. And it's super visible. It's right at the front door, which means that I want it to look somewhat tidy and manageable. Don't always manage it. Anyone who's been to our house can attest to that. But the idea is that each cube can hold 1 or 2 toy sets or play invitations. So you might have a basket of blocks in one cube, a set of animal figures in the next, cars in another one. One might be full of open-ended materials like scarves or magnetic tiles or wooden people. I always have one cube with stuff for pretend play, so it might be the doctor's kit or some baby dolls and bottles. And I always have one cube set aside for sort of less open-ended toys, so things like a puzzle or some sort of like turn-taking game, like one of the Orchard Toys games or something like that. So that's about it. So everything else, other than what fits into those 6 cubes, and there's a lot, lives in tubs under my daughter's bed or in her room, wherever we can fit it in. And the idea is that every few weeks, whenever I notice that the kids are sort of flitting around, just dumping stuff out of containers without really playing with anything, I do a reset. So that's packing up the toys that aren't being used much and just bring out something that's been away for a while. And without fail, within minutes, a second they even notice it, they're absorbed again. So the same toys they ignored last month are suddenly the best thing ever. So there are 3 big shifts that I notice when we do a proper rotation. So the first is that they do deeper play. So staying engaged for longer instead of just bouncing from one thing to another, actually building little worlds and stories. Another thing is that they're more independent. So not needing me to direct the play, that simpler environment, novelty factor invites them to take the lead and just explore on their own. And the third is that it's just calmer energy. The whole space is way less chaotic because there's less there. It's easier to tidy, easier to focus. So everyone seems a bit more grounded, which on a personal level helps me feel calmer too. When there's less visual clutter, I can think more clearly. I'm less likely to feel overstimulated by the mess, and I'm more likely to tidy it up because there's only 6 toys or 6 types of toys out. It's really easy to go, okay, this goes into that cubby, that goes into that one, and to pack it all away again. Whereas when we don't do this and extra toys start making their way out from the bedroom and joining rather than be packing stuff away to get new things out, it just ends up this huge big cluttered mess. And I have a basket of random toys that don't go together, and can get the kids to help me tidy up, and they'll put things into the basket, but there's no system. They don't know what's in there. It just doesn't seem to work. So, I wish I could say that every few weeks I did a full toy rotation, but I don't. Sometimes getting all the tubs out from under the bed can feel really overwhelming. Sometimes life just happens and the toys just slowly make their way out of the bedroom into the living room and they pile up. So I think it's important to say that out loud, because toy rotation can become one more should on the mental load list, especially if you're comparing yourself to these, beautiful Instagram-worthy houses that have super organized cupboards and heaps of storage space, and it's easy to access and it's easy to swap things out, and they apparently have all the time in the world to do it. But that's not the reality that most of us live in. I can't do this when the kids are awake or home, because if they're there while I'm getting stuff out of the tubs, they want to get everything out of the tubs, and it's just this huge mess. So I can only do it when the kids are out of the house. But I can't do it when my eldest is asleep, because everything's under her bed and I can't access it while she's sleeping. So it's not a system that we've got working perfectly yet. I dream of a bigger house where maybe the storage isn't under her bed and we have room for it somewhere else so that I can do it during sleep times. But it is something that is meant to reduce overwhelm, not add to it, which is why I don't put too much pressure on myself to, do it every fortnight on the same day every fortnight. So instead I treat it just like a reset button. So it's something that I reach for when I notice that play has gotten a bit flat or a bit chaotic. So for me, I don't do this consistently. I do it responsively. And when I have capacity. So sometimes it does just look like, wow, everything's just a mess and I've been meaning to do this for a while. Okay. And I just ask my husband, can you just take them out to the park for a few hours so I can reset this space and get out some different toys? And everyone is happier at the end of that. So if you're listening to this thinking, I love this idea, but I have no idea where to start, here's what I'd suggest. First is just to pick one area. So don't try and overhaul the whole house in one day. Start with the spot where your child plays the most. So that might be a corner of the living room, or it might be in their bedroom, or they might have their own playroom. Remove half of the toys from that specific space that you've chosen. So literally just halve what's visible. So don't overthink which ones. Just choose half. They don't need a system to start with, and just tuck away the rest. So store them out of sight. It could be a tub in the cupboard, under the bed. It could be in a tub in your own cupboard even. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be labeled. Just for now, just pack it away and see what happens. See how your child interacts with the smaller selection. Notice what holds their attention longer, or what they suddenly rediscover. So without having done toy rotation before, you don't necessarily have something new to bring out, but by halving what's there, it might make it easier for your child to see and choose from that selection of toys. And then swap as needed. So if things start to feel stale again, or if your child's asking about a particular toy, you can bring that back into rotation, but try really hard to pack something else away. If your child is asking for a specific thing, find a spot to put it. So people do different rotations based on different things. So some do themes. So they'll be like, it's a sensory play theme, or a pretend play theme, or a building theme, or you can do it intuitively based on what your child's sort of current interests are. What I try to do is have one thing from a range of different categories. So I try and have one building toy, one pretend play toy, one puzzle or structured game toy, one fine motor type toy, and the other 2 categories of the 6 might be musical instruments one week if I'm feeling like I've got the mental capacity for that kind of noise, or it might just be a toy that I haven't seen for a little while. Another thing for making it work in shared spaces. So for those of you who, like us, share your living space with the toys, here's what helps. When it lives in the living room, and you want to try and keep it looking tidy so that you don't mind seeing it every day, is using baskets. So in each of those cupboards of the 6 cube storage shelf, if I'm getting out, say, the toy animals, I'll just put them in a basket instead of just having them loose in there. Some things work better with that than others, but yeah, if it can go into a basket to keep it a little bit tidier, that's a really good option. Or if it's, comes in a box, that's even better. But that sort of cube shelf, the idea is to use it as a natural limit so that if it doesn't fit in those 6 cubes, then it doesn't stay out. And that helps keep that visual clutter a little bit more under control. It's still a lot when they pull it all out at once, but this does make rotation easier because it sets that really clear capacity. So a quick example from our house. A few months ago, I noticed the kids weren't really playing very much in the living room anymore. The floor was covered in toys, but nothing was actually being used. It sort of felt like I'd pack it all back into the tubs at the end of the day, and then it would just get emptied out and not played with. It was sort of just like the activity was taking it out of the baskets rather than playing with the toys. So I sent them to the park with their dad, packed away almost everything. I kept out a couple of things that I thought they would like to play with if they really noticed it. And so I brought out some things that had been packed away. So little wooden dolls that had been in the cupboard, pulled out the tub of magnet tiles, added a little scarf basket as well. And the kids came home and my daughter immediately just started building a house for the dolls. And they had this whole little story about who they were and what they were doing in this house. And it was this really lovely mix of construction and imagination. And it all just came from less stuff with that little bit of novelty factor from something new coming out. So even though the magnet tiles are one of the things that are permanently available, so, we do this toy rotation in the 6 cubes, but in my daughter's room, the tub of magnet tiles is just readily available in her bedroom, and the toy kitchen is the other thing that's permanently available. We don't pack that away. So even though those magnet tiles were always there, it wasn't until the little dolls came out in the toy rotation that she was like, oh, I know what I'm going to do with those tiles. I'm going to build with them. So the beauty of toy rotation, it shifts the focus from what toys they have to how they use them. And it helps remind us kids don't need new things. They just need the space and capacity to explore what they already have. So when we rotate, we're not just changing the toys, we're changing the environment. We're helping our kids' brains focus and create and rest. And we're helping ourselves too, because when I do this, it does make the whole toys all over the floor mess actually a lot easier to deal with, because it is just those either 6 specific toys or 6 types of toy. So, it might be 20 toy plastic animals, but they all fit in the one basket. And that makes it so much easier to tidy up at the end of the day. So here's the takeaway from this week. Toy rotation does not have to be perfect. It does not have to be Pinterest worthy or Instagram worthy. It's not about having the right system necessarily. It's about finding a rhythm that works for your family, creating that environment to create curiosity and connection with your kids, and to make space physically and mentally for your children so they can fill it with play. Thanks for listening to this episode of Not Just Theories. If you try out toy rotation, I would love to hear about it. Tag me on Instagram at Not Just Theories and share a photo of your real life setup. You don't need any labels or beige baskets, but some honest, imperfect times where play really happens. Next week, we will continue a mini play series with an episode all about open-ended play, what it looks like, why it matters, and how we as adults can step back and let it unfold. Until then, happy playing and happy simplifying. Thanks so much for listening to Not Just Theories. I really appreciate you being here. If this episode resonated with you, the best way to support the show is to follow, leave us a rating or review, or just share this episode with someone else who you think might find it comforting or useful. I hope to see you back here soon.